Hello and welcome to the Microsoft Cloud Digital Series. My name is Sean Graglia. I represent Azure Mixed Reality business for Canada. Today we'll be discussing how to keep operations flowing using mixed reality solutions for business continuity with our guests from world-leading mixed reality partner Kognitiv. Before we get started, I just wanted to do a couple of housekeeping items. Firstly, if you have any questions during the session, I encourage you to ask them as they come up. You can send those over to us by selecting the Q&A button on your screen and inputting those into the window. Our team will be responding to questions in real time. Secondly, please note that a link to recording of today's session will be sent over email within 24 hours following the completion of the webinar. Please check your junk mail too. If you don't receive a message, you may want to go back and revisit parts of the session down the road. And finally, this webinar has been closed captioned. If you turn off this feature in the bottom right corner of the media player, that will be available to you. So at this time, I would like to formally welcome Kognitiv Spark's CEO, Jan Simard, and welcome the co-founder and COO, Duncan McSporran. Jan, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Sean. Much appreciated. We're very excited to be here today to talk about mixed reality and how it can help mitigate business continuity risks and keeping operations flowing. So today we'll be talking about, of course, COVID-19. It's one of the biggest business continuity disruption we've had in a while. And we'll be talking as well about mixed reality and how it is a very important tool when it comes to your COVID-19 risk mitigation strategies. We'll look at what it does, what are the different types of applications that can be done using mixed reality. And we'll look at two case studies as well that at Kognitiv Spark we've been working on for many months with customers. And of course, we'll go with your Q&A at the very end. So COVID-19, yes, it's been quite a challenge for many organizations around the world when it comes to business continuity. And we're all very aware of the impacts it's having on our day-to-day operations, and we're discovering more as we move along. And if I try to summarize what these impacts are, many of them are related to the fact that business is oftentimes defined by physical proximity. So it's physical proximity with partners, with employees, with customers. And when that proximity is challenged in a no travel, limited contact environment, it gets very hard for companies to operate the way they used to. And we all know now that COVID-19 is going to be here for a while. So we're in the midst of the first wave, but we can expect more waves to come in the coming months as well. So it's very important to find ways to redefine what proximity means and probably add more of a digital proximity component to it. We've all seen the rise of, as an example, video conferencing over the last weeks. It's now very common to see video calls in business. But the problem is that those tools that allow to establish digital proximity don't yet fully apply to industrial field workers. So those workers are not impacted yet by digital transformation and digital proximity. And that's where MR comes into play. So mixed reality can really help extend digital proximity to field workers. I'd like to invite my colleague Duncan now to tell us more about mixed reality. So Duncan, can you explain what mixed reality is, what it can do, but also how it can help organizations in terms of business continuity?
Yeah, sure, Jan. Thanks very much. And thanks, Sean, for the very great welcome to this presentation today. Just to give this some context, we've been doing this now for 4 years, and that's given us a great insight, not only into the work that we do here at Kognitiv Spark, but also the work that a number of other partners do, really all within the context of the phenomenal leadership that's been demonstrated within the mixed reality community by Microsoft and the team that's created really what is the most stable and usable platform for mixed reality, the Microsoft HoloLens. Really, there's some bullet points here which you can all read and you'll digest in your own various ways, but there's some points that I really want to bring up that will add some general understanding, and hopefully will help to build a context which will allow us to build out your understanding of what mixed reality is and what the impacts it can have on your particular operations, whether those are business operations or federal operations, or simply from a perspective of understanding what continuity is going to look like in a new digital or digitally enabled world, but also subject to many of the constraints which are placed on us by such incidents as the COVID-19 lockdown. Firstly, and really this is critical, mixed reality is an advanced manufacturing toolset. Whether you use it for collaboration or whether you use it for working with your field support teams, it's something that's there. It's something that's been discussed for a number of years now as being an absolutely critical enabler within the greater context of advanced manufacturing. So if your organization is on a transformational pathway to digital, the digital factory of the future, Industry 4.0, you will have had discussions on what is the advanced manufacturing technologies, or what are the advanced manufacturing technologies that will enable you to move forwards. And you'll have heard of mixed reality or augmented reality in various forms with that. And it's important at this stage that we understand that that is separate from virtual reality, where virtual reality is a completely made up environment that you exist within, where you're occluded completely from the operational environment. Mixed reality allows you to be in your current space, and as a result of that has a lot of applications to assist teams doing the work that they already do now without them having to step away from that into a completely separate environment. Secondly, mixed reality is highly effective. It's a highly effective capability for the transfer of knowledge. And we work very closely with a number of research partners. They're helping us to validate that. And that work is echoed by the work that has been done, not only by Microsoft itself, but by some of the largest industrial companies and organizations and names that you'll be eminently familiar with, whether that's Boeing or Lockheed Martin or Caterpillar. They've identified the impact that mixed reality is going to have on their workforce. And this is not something that they're thinking about having in place in 5 years' time. It's something that they've got in place now to help their operational capabilities maintain some form of capacity during lockdowns such as the one that we're experiencing at this time, and inherently is enhancing their capacities to be able to deal with any future disruption. But at the same time is something that they're able to use in a normal environment on a day-to-day basis to really drive forwards their business and, as I've mentioned, their operational capabilities. Also importantly, mixed reality is an incredibly powerful digital environment. And what we're talking about here is the creation of something using, in our case, the Microsoft HoloLens, and it maximizes the power of the human brain. And it's not about replacing that human brain. It's actually allowing that brain to be presented with information in a visual way which most closely represents a real object. So a hologram projected using remote spark into a mixed reality environment is occupying space as if it was a real object. And that in itself is immensely powerful to overcome challenges in communication, where maybe you're communicating with a team whose first language is not English, or they're communicating to you and their language is not your first language. And it helps the brain to visualize information in a context of that real world that I've already mentioned. It's really something that, in terms of cognition and cognitive science, takes the human brain into a place where it's the most comfortable. When we read instructions or we look at something that may be presented to us as a PDF or a regular document with a diagram in it, our brain is using a lot of its capacity to turn that information into something that it readily digests. The mixed reality environment allows that worker or that team member to really visualize things in a way which is the most easily digestible by the brain, and it can use that information in a way which is incredibly impactful. And that really helps to bring in not only the technicians in the workspace where they need to do their work, but also the subject matter experts who can be anywhere in the world, providing insightful knowledge and digital artifacts to that frontline worker, but also to involve the operational teams who will invariably need to be involved in the decision-making process as actions are taken. And we'll come on to that in a short while when I give you a good overview of how mixed reality technologies can be implemented. And most important of all the points that I want to mention on this slide is that mixed reality is ready now. This isn't something that's going to be here in 3 or 4 years' time. This is something that companies such as ourselves, such as VGIS, such as Spatial, and some of the groups within Microsoft have out with clients, partners, and customers right now, helping those companies to overcome the challenges of COVID-19, but also to make themselves much more capable of dealing with the challenges of what we're going to encounter as we emerge from the current global lockdown. Next slide, please, Sean. Really, how does it create impact? You'll already have started to get a sense for where my thoughts are on this and where our vision is as a company. But really, in the most simple way, these 4 bullet points really illustrate this very, very clearly. And they do it in a way which, for most of you on this call who have an involvement in operational delivery of capability, you will understand immediately. This comes from the discussions that we've had over the last 4 years. It also comes from our own personal experiences prior to setting the company up. But really, where mixed reality has that impact, it's in this ability to create better leverage of your experts. Why do we spend so much time putting our experts on planes or sending them to various corners of the world just to simply go and do simple tasks when we could use mixed reality to do it and mixed reality to do it effectively? What do we want to do more than anything else when equipment is offline? We want to bring it back online as quickly as we possibly can. And putting somebody onto an aircraft and sending them, or putting them into a car and sending them to the other side of town, uses really valuable time that could otherwise be used either in production or making sure that that equipment is fully available for its operational task. We also, across all society, face the challenge of the fact that a lot of our experienced workers are leaving the workforce. They are reaching the age at which they've been working for their entire working lives, and they're getting to retirement and they're happy to go into retirement. That silver tsunami, or that silver brain drain which is occurring, takes with it all the knowledge and experience that those individuals have got and that they've built up over a lifetime of working, in some cases a lifetime working with one system, and they become the sole repository of a lot of that knowledge. Well, using mixed reality, what we can do is we can accelerate the transfer of knowledge from those experienced workforce to the less experienced but qualified workers who are still working and who can benefit from that experience in a way which is the least impactful to both the individual on the ground, but also that experienced worker who doesn't necessarily want to have to travel to the other side of the Atlantic again just to show somebody how to reset an electronic system and get a computer back up and running, or to reinitialize a piece of manufacturing equipment. And most importantly, from an operational perspective in the industrial context, and also in the operational context for federal systems, it's the reduction of errors. And it's the ability to use mixed reality in a number of ways which allow the end user to be certain that their next action is the right action. And they can do that through a process of collaboration and through being walked on tasks by experts who know what they're doing and can assist that individual at the far end by using advanced digital tools to give them the resources that they need in order to be able to complete a task effectively and on time. And those 4 points really resonate with all of the clients that we speak to. And I know that, again, with the discussions that we have throughout the Microsoft Partner Network, that is one which is, all those 4 points are ones which are really, really significant to almost all industrial potential users of mixed reality, and especially to those organizations that are well developed in how that they adopt a digital transformational pathway into Industry 4.0. Next slide. Three use cases of mixed reality, which really should be the kind of things which come really on the tip of people's tongues when they're talking about mixed reality, if they're experienced in the field. Data visualization, conferencing, and also remote spark. For data visualization, we work with a partner in the Microsoft network called VGIS, based in Toronto, and their real key focus is actually bringing the data to people in an accurate way so that it has extremely high accuracy in terms of its location, but is also a key capability to allow people to see where critical systems are and to involve other members of teams in the location of critical infrastructure such as water or electrical mains and so on. That data visualization can be enhanced with a number of things, including the integration of IoT data or any sensed data which can be collected from a number of sensors and imposed into the view of the worker. So instead of looking at a two-dimensional sheet, when they're looking for a water main, they can see exactly where that water main is. They can see exactly in their field of view where that water main is at a depth of so many meters. And they can see where that comes from, where it goes to, and it's all geographically perfectly accurate for the environment that they're in. No guessing, no trying to orientate themselves, no, hey, build, you know, if this one goes here or it goes there, or does it run across the street at this point? It's presented perfectly accurately and allows the individuals to get on with their job as quickly as possible. Conferencing. Spatial, may be familiar to many of the people on this call already. Another great team using conferencing to really enhance the context and the depth of those online meetings that we're reflecting in this particular broadcast that we're doing today, and really allows team members to connect in a more meaningful way and to work in a truly collaborative way, including the creation of whiteboards and stick-it notes. And to many of the people that use this is almost, if not more powerful than getting a group of people together in one room. But obviously, what it allows is it allows that conferencing to occur without the necessity to bring everybody into that one space, and those people can be distributed geographically over the entire area of an organization. And if that's a global organization or a national organization, that immediately has impact and savings to those teams. And then finally, Remote Spark, which is our support solution in the remote support area. What we were able to do is to make mixed reality work where the end user needs it to work, in low bandwidth conditions where necessary, with extremely high security, and also in a way which is of incredibly low impact to the individual. So mixed reality systems developed right from the word go to be something which does not become a burden when the individual is operating it, but instead becomes something which is a go-to tool which can be used as easily and as effectively as a mobile phone call, allowing the individual to call whoever the expert is that he wants to speak to provide him with expert knowledge about the situation that they face, and to allow them to do their job more effectively, to contribute to that company or that organization's outputs in a really effective way. Next slide. I haven't used the term tempo so far in the discussion, but I'll use it now, and that really comes from my background about how we use mixed reality to increase tempo. And it really sums up an awful lot of what I've been saying, which is the ability to make decisions collectively with a collaborative group, to make them effectively, and to make the person who's on the spot, who's being challenged with a particular task or an engineering issue, to deal with that task and to deal with that issue in the most effective way possible, with the least amount of delay and with the lowest overhead cost for the organization. And that overhead cost could be expressed in many ways. It could be operational availability of a piece of equipment, or it could be in terms of the cost to lost production, or it could be in terms of the cost in order to send people to a particular site, either in time or the cost of flights and so on. What we've got here is an example of something that we were given early on in our growth by a partner company here in Atlantic Canada. They are based in Nova Scotia. They have facilities around the world, and the one that causes them more problems than anything else, we've been told, is the one that is in Chile. And that is not simply because there are issues with the workforce. It's actually because of the location of the workforce and how difficult it is to access. That is compounded by the fact that the equipment within that facility is manufactured by an OEM in Scandinavia. And what you see is a process which would be typical of any industrial organization in this particular case, but also reflects military deployments globally as well, where equipment comes from a global supply chain. It could be from a company in Germany, and the operational base could be anywhere, whether that's in Europe or in the Middle East. The operations center responsible for delivery of capability is here in Canada. So they go through a particular cycle. For some people, it's the OODA loop, the decision action cycle. In this case, we've expressed it as a cycle which is planning, collaboration, assessment, and then in this case, repair. The action which brings the system back up and running. In this case, the partner we were working with had a decision action cycle that would normally, if something went down, take 4 cycles in order for it to be rectified. And those 4 cycles, if it came to a piece of equipment having to be replaced, would really end up with somebody flying from Scandinavia all the way to Chile. And that in itself is a 2-day journey just to get the engineer there, but would normally occur after up to 10 days of going through this cycle in this way. Using the 3 tools that I've just identified in the previous slide, what we're able to see is steps which would allow a lot of that activity to occur concurrently. And in many cases, and we've got one client that estimates that up to 70% of their cases now are rectified without a single person leaving the home site. The situation would normally be that the 4 cycles that the client would go through would result in a situation which would take at least 10 days to rectify. So for planning, we can use the conferencing tool. So we can bring everybody in simultaneously. And we can take the team in Scandinavia, the team in Canada, and the team in Chile, and we can put them all into a planning cycle to discuss what the issue is, how to deal with it, and what the resources are that may be available. We then conduct collaboration, and that can be using the data visualization and remote support tools to do inspections of the equipment, and also to take the IoT data from that that's available for that information for the equipment, and to bring that into the planning cycle. And this can all have happened. We can already be into this collaboration cycle within 2 to 3 hours of the operations center in Canada being notified that there's an issue. We then do the assessment, and then that data visualization will take place in a way which allows the remote support tools to be deployed with the correct resources and with the correct subject matter experts supporting the workers on the ground. And this is occurring almost as soon as the collaboration started as well. And then we're able to continue that into the repair using the remote support tool, in this case, Remote Spark, to guide the individual, either using that remote support through the subject matter experts, or using a digital artifact which allows that person to go through something such as a repair by replacement, effectively being guided step by step using Remote Spark on the workshop floor, in the place where he needs to do the work, right by the side of the equipment, and also able to be confident that what they're doing is the right task and that they're doing it in the right way, guided by Bill. We've just, or Bill, Bob or Sarah, whoever it is, from the original equipment manufacturer or from the operations center. So what we see is that whole cycle being condensed using mixed reality into a way which is really effective, really empowers the end worker. It's not replacing the end worker in any sense. It's helping them to do their role more effectively. but at the same time is achieving that operational tempo. Now, it may not be something that occurs in the first day. It may be something that goes over into 2 or 3 days. But if that has made the work cycle shorter by 7 days over previous process, then it's something which is incredibly effective and is using mixed reality not only to do that, but also to do that knowledge transfer, to achieve that knowledge transfer that I mentioned earlier on as well. So I'm going to finish with that. Hopefully that's been relatively clear and you've not been lost by my wanderings. But if you've got any questions on that and you'd like examples beyond the ones which Jan is about to share with you, then we're more than happy to discuss those or to put you in touch with any of our partners who have got expertise in a particular area of the utilization of mixed reality in the effective ways that we've discussed. Next slide.
Thanks, Duncan. That's very useful. One of the things that Duncan said that is really important is that mixed reality is ready now. And I'm going to share 2 use cases that are more focused on the remote support scenario, because that's what we do at Kognitiv Spark. But these are quite powerful. So the first example is Rogers Electric and Machine. That's a company that does industrial electricity work in a number of verticals, including mining. So their work sites are oftentimes in remote locations, and getting people on site when there's, as an example, a maintenance call can be quite time consuming and costly. So Rogers Electric, they were able to deploy with us many months ago already, and they were able to demonstrate that each time that there's a maintenance call, they're able to save between 3 and 17 hours in terms of the duration of the call and the effort. So that translates into about $7,000 of savings per call. So that's quite massive. Now, when COVID-19 arrived, what they were able to do is rethink the way they are delivering their value and their operations using mixed reality communication. So they were able to bring maintenance and repair tasks in-house that would otherwise have been done with a number of partners and outside of their facilities. They were also able to even rethink the way they're delivering work inside their headquarters, where the experts were oftentimes confined at home, but then a technician could go on site and do a repair on a given piece of machinery with the expert working from home. Next slide, please. Another good example is a partner named Surepoint Group, which is specialized in oil and gas operations in Western Canada. They again wanted to improve response times and reduce equipment downtime when they start to do work with us. And what they were able to demonstrate fairly quickly is that they could see a 60% increase in problems that could be solved without having to travel on site. Then again, it translated into, of course, significant time and money savings. And in their case, when COVID-19 arrived, they too had to rethink the way they're delivering value to their customers. And it got them to even think, let's figure out how to build in mixed reality inside the support packages that we're offering to our high value customers. And we can even get to the point where the work that would traditionally be done by a Surepoint technician would be done by a technician from their customers, but guided by Surepoint through a technology like Remote Spark. They're also able to conduct periodic inspections and audits completely remotely, which again leads to faster resolution time and also better margins. Next slide, please. So that's it. That's what mixed reality can do for business. It can keep operations flowing, and it's very important. Now, before we finish, I'd like to maybe mention 3 takeaways that I would like everybody to remember. The first one is that mixed reality is ready now. It's not something that is going to mature in 3 or 5 years. You can drive value immediately, even at small scale. The second thing that I want to mention is that we are demonstrating measurable return on investment with a very high number of customers, and we're very bullish in asking our customers that they measure their baseline carefully and that they demonstrate that return on investment. And the third takeaway that I'd like you to take is that mixed reality, in my view, is a very important part of your business continuity planning, especially if you have remote work and industrial operations. I think it's a must, and it's here to stay. Thanks.
And thank you, Jan and Duncan, for sharing your insights on mixed reality and how Kognitiv Spark is helping customers realize value today and increasing tempo with mixed reality solutions. Thank you also participants for spending time and hearing how your organization can benefit from these solutions. If any questions haven't been answered today, feel free to reach out to me or the Kognitiv Spark team.